Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to another episode of Reliability Matters, the podcast dedicated to all things reliability in the electronics manufacturing industry. Today, we're continuing our dive into the world of contract manufacturing, a vital piece of the electronics ecosystem. Joining me are two industry leaders who know this space inside and out. First, we have Daniel Stanphill, SMT Process Engineer at Aurora Boardworks, and alongside him, Sean Kincaid, President of K&F Electronics. Both Daniel and Sean represent companies that provide contract manufacturing services to a wide range of customers, helping turn design concepts into dependable, production-ready circuit assemblies. In this conversation, we'll explore what makes for a successful relationship between contract manufacturers and their customers. We'll talk about the types of customers they look for, the challenges they face in today's manufacturing environment, and the common mistakes that can derail a project if not addressed early on. Most importantly, we'll dig into the best practices that can help ensure customers and manufacturers work together more effectively. You may recognize Daniel and Sean. In addition to their day jobs, Daniel and Sean, along with Elias Malfavon, are also co-hosts of the Decode podcast, where they share candid conversations and insights from across the electronics industry. We'll hear what inspired them to launch the show and how it ties into their mission of building stronger connections in this field. So whether you're an engineer, a buyer, or anyone that works with contract manufacturers, this episode is packed with advice to help you navigate the process with confidence. Let's get started.
Welcome to Reliability Matters, a podcast for the electronic assembly industry. Each episode covers topics related to reliability, best practices, and environmentally responsible assembly techniques, with insights from experts across the electronic assembly industry. Now, here's your host, Mike Konrad.
Hey, fellas, welcome to the other side of the podcast desk.
Thank you.
Thanks, to see Mike. Good to see you both. As I mentioned to you just before we started recording, this is the second of a kind of a two-part dive into contract manufacturing best practices. And since both of you are both A, friends of mine, and B, contract manufacturers, I thought this would be a good fit. The two of you each work in that environment, contract manufacturers. I mean, on paper, you would be competitors. But I know enough about you guys to know that that paper was crumpled up and thrown in the trash because you act more like colleagues than competitors. So, Daniel, let's start with you. How did you find your way into this industry? You were either convicted of a heinous crime and you had a choice to go to jail or work in the electronics assembly industry, or this is something you were dreaming about when you were a child, or fill in the blank.
Sure. I'll neither confirm nor deny some of that, but the nice thing about being on this side of the mic is actually, for us, it's going to be no different than doing our own podcast, because it's the same level of preparation that we do, whether we're hosting or guests with no idea what the content will be. So we'll both be very natural in this. But the way I found it was definitely by accident. I was running my own business in construction, housing construction, and painting houses, and things were slow in the wintertime, and my father-in-law, who lived in town, happened to let me know about a job posting he had seen at this place. I'd never heard of it, didn't know what they did. I kind of looked him up and was like, well, whatever, steady paycheck through the winter is pretty much all I thought about it. And then I came and did an interview, and the second I walked through the plant floor, like, I was just pretty much captivated by all the machinery I saw running and what it was doing. And I knew I would find it super interesting for a few months, if nothing else. And as soon as I got really invested into it and got going, you won't be able to pull me out of it now. So I just love everything about all this stuff. So, yeah.
Well, very good. I have a similar path. I knew nothing about electronics when I dove into the electronics industry way back in 1985. In fact, it took years to be able to even tell this little anecdote because I was so embarrassed. I worked for a soldering equipment manufacturer in '85, and it was a drag solder machine. So it was like a giant solder pot, and the board slowly went down into the solder and came up out of it. And I asked, how does the solder know where to stick? And of course, and I knew enough about electronics where I should not have asked that question. And of course, the answer was first a long pause, followed by solder only sticks to metal, dude. And I'm like, oh, man, yeah, I just blew that one. But anyway, that was that we have semi-similar journeys. And then it became, basically a lifelong PhD program in electronics after that. Sean, I understand that your story is a little bit different. You have electronics running through you have electrons running through your veins. Tell me about your journey into this industry.
My dad always says copper coursing through my veins.
There you go.
My grandpa was always into electronics in high school, and he started, he went out to Chicago where all the board fab was, and this one guy that was instrumental in getting him to start his own board shop back in Detroit, where his family is, and then he started our shop back in 1972. And then my dad worked there his entire life, and then that's all I've ever wanted to do, is really to do PCB fab. It wasn't to do PCB assembly. It was just to do PCB fab, but due to the global market, we had to adapt and go with the times and start doing PCB assembly.
The global market, the global market, you mean that sucking sound you heard while all the fab shops were bailing out of the U.S. and headed for distant lands.
Yeah, that was my PC version of it. Yeah, just the complete dismantling of the United States manufacturing PCB capability. Yes, we were a part of the destruction part of it. So, 2021 was last year. We made a board.
Wow. I know there are still board shops in the U.S. today, but I don't know if they're, like large companies that manage to still do it for a select number of clients, or if they're mom and pop, or if they're garage operations. I'm not sure which ones are left.
The majority of them will have operations elsewhere also to handle more volume at cheaper pricing and only do the priority jobs that are at a higher price point here in the States. Is that accurate, Sean, would you say?
I'd say there's like 4 or 5 big guys left, and 3 of them are gobbled up by the military pretty much, and there's one that's really good, and one of my friends liked to use them for a long time, and they said that it was a 4-month lead time on consumer electronics. So if you wanted your board, you got to wait 4 months for them. So they're basically saying we got too much work with the military. We don't need the consumer stuff. And then because circuit board fab's in my blood, I love seeing it. If I travel around town and I know another shop is around the area, I go to check in on them. And the state of disarray that the United States small mom and pop board fabs in is just it's so sad to see. Places that used to have 200 people employed are down to like 15. And their shipping rooms are filled with Chinese boxes, because it's just, you can't win the bid without the price anymore and delivery time, and it's really sad to see what's happening, and but it is what it is. If you don't adapt, there's nothing you can do about it. So you just gotta get with life and on life's terms, But yeah, I haven't been in a board shop that impressed me in a while, so it's sad.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, and it doesn't just apply to the electronics manufacturing. I think when you said when we lost manufacturing, you could have stopped right there, right? Not just for electronics, but for a lot of things, particularly in the trade world, right? We've lost a lot of tradespeople in this country. I would think that, to your point, Sean, where mom and pop businesses can't get by and are just getting smaller, that kind of talk about circling the drain. I think a lot of the U.S. board fab shops that are left, the 4 big ones, as you state, that are left, are probably doing largely ITAR type work. And the ITAR type people probably aren't going to go to Sean's basement or garage
Right.
and do work there, right? Because you have to, there's so much CYA going on with ITAR and lots of documentation, lots of stuff like that. And they probably don't feel that comfortable giving that kind of business to a mom and pop. So the big will probably stay big, and there is no small anymore. That would be,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's the world according to Mike anyway.
Yeah, the certifications for storing just even the Gerber files, right?
Right.
They're 300,000 a year just to get certified to be able to store the Gerber files on your computer systems at work, right? So that automatically already, and that's just to get the ability to quote. You know, you still have to be competitive and deliver on time and have good quality, right? Like, just to get the opportunity to get on the bid list it's just, you know, there's no funding for that for the small guy.
Right. Is that
Some of them
happening
you
with,
have to be able to guarantee the supply chain for a certain amount of time too, and handle
Yeah.
all that inventory.
right, which is, so the cost of entry is prohibitive, really.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a small business. Is that happening to the contract manufacturing world? I mean, clearly not to that extent. I mean, there are lots of contract manufacturers. You know, we sell to them. You know who they all are. So there's still lots of. It's still relatively healthy. But do you see a direction where even that will leave our shores, or do you think that will be retained here?
I'm curious Daniel's opinion first.
I think you're going to see the cream rise to the top. So I think there's always going to be a market for the lowest price, right? That's just always going to exist. But where you can differentiate yourself and just not compete on price, because it's just not going to happen. Sean's seen that happen in the fabrication world firsthand. So I think we need to all just kind of eject from this race to the bottom that's kind of been happening, and just accept the fact that we won't be that same price, and find partners that work with you that have other values and priorities that matter to them more than just the cheapest manufacturable item they can get. So we've found good partners already that value good communication and quality and a willingness to work together. Like that's the kind of thing we're looking for, and we've been finding it. So I feel like the right work is out there, but you have to be able to deliver if you can't beat them on price, then you better be able to beat your competition in other areas. So you have to be really good at what you do, or else why would they choose you when there's a better option realistically?
Well, at the risk of stretching PC to its outer boundaries, there's very little risk when you send boards to a North American contract manufacturer that it's going to end up being copied and mass produced somewhere else in the world. You know, I think we're certainly, the culture and you know, the business acumen here is a little bit different than in some places on the planet. Sean, any comments on all that?
Well, I lived through it with PCB Fab, so to think that it wouldn't happen to PCB assembly to me is ignoring history, right? So that's why I focused on getting ISO 1345, my medical certification, as well as next year we're going to try to go for AS 9100, and then after that would be military. So I'm going to focus on, because I truly believe once Asia gets better at communicating with bombs and components and stuff like that, it's a wrap for this industry. Because PCB Fab, you send them the Gerbers, they send you the boards, right? When you send somebody a bomb, there's very rarely where every part's available and every part description matches and they can source it the same way we can source it. That's so rare over there. Once that starts to become more universal and you can just ship it over there and then they ship it back, I think consumer electronics are gone. So that's why I'm focusing on medical, military, and aerospace for certifications, because I don't see it lasting in the States. Just once the communication gets better, I think it's a wrap. I really do.
You know, I do another podcast series on entrepreneurship and business and things like that. And one of the things we discuss pretty regularly is, you know, we all think our customers, we're all like wallflowers at the prom waiting for someone to ask us to dance. And I think in business, we choose our customers just as much as our customers choose us, or at least we should. And you're right. There's no sense starting a race to the bottom. When I started my company 33 years ago, I did a survey of competitive products, and it was a price survey. And I decided I'm going to come out of the gate with a price higher than everyone else. And that's part of the business philosophy. If you're going to fail, fail fast, right? And I knew that if I, undercut my competition by 10%, they would lower their price, by more than that. And then I would lower my price, and then they would lower their price. And next thing you know, no one's making any money. And if we don't make a profit, if you don't make a profit, that actually hurts the customer because you're not able to support over years your customer. You're not able to provide value added. You can't afford the added part of it. So there is something to be said for making a decision to purchase based on all-in value, not just piece price. And I think more and more companies these days, particularly in specific fields, and Sean, you're quite wise to go after medical and high-rel and defense because they are less, looking at pennies as they are many other factors, which some of the will be at any price or your mattress is free, those types of ads. I think there's one in every city. Clearly, those can't survive, and you're going to get what you pay for. The old adage, get what you pay for. Can you guys describe the types of customers you typically work with? Sean, you already said the types of customers you want to work with, and what industries they represent. Daniel, let's start with
Stan, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't necessarily found like a specific niche. Our customer base is pretty wide from the industries that come. We have medical, aerospace, less consumer electronics, more industrial applications for a lot of our products, oil and gas. But I mean, for one, it's obviously nice to have a diverse customer base in different industries because very rarely are you going to see the same type of economic growth in all sectors at the same time, right? So that's a benefit, but we have been seeing more growth in the ag sector, which makes a lot of sense for us because that's one of the most strong industries locally. So being in Nebraska, you're not going to see a huge boon in some other industries, but there's a lot of agricultural players here. So we're starting to maybe go after that more aggressively because it's easier and makes sense to partner with people that are close to you. But realistically, when you're in the middle of the USA with a population of 2 million in your state, you're probably going to be looking for a lot of work outside of your state also.
Yeah, for sure. Sean?
Oh man, it's so tough to be serious with Daniel on the thing because there's like we always make these smart, bleep comments to each other all the times, right? And
he's going to go all Detroit on us now. He's going to talk about Detroit strong.
I was thinking to just name his top customers and then just say, these are the ones that we're going after, something like that. But no, for us, it's like Daniel. But what I've noticed a lot lately is drones. Drones are just exploding in the U.S. and the amount of like random
Sean, they're exploding.
Drone stuff.
Period.
Yes, they are. Yeah, and hey, we'll build more. So
that's the perfect product, right?
Single
really
use.
Big.
Single use
for more.
Yeah.
Honestly, for us, the RV market around here and automotive market is it's a huge. My biggest runners are all RV stuff. For the most part, it's wild. And then we have a couple of standard ones and stuff like that. But in the RV ones we do is actually it's more of a Bluetooth lock for the RV. So, you want to unlock your RV and you pull up the software and then you type in the code or you can use your finger to press the buttons and it's a really
same kind of
board.
technology. Same kind of technology we see on like Airbnbs. If you've stayed at an Airbnb in the last several years, they change the code for every guest. They text you the code, and you show up, and it works for a period of time, and all that. I remember during COVID, you couldn't buy an RV, you couldn't buy a boat, you couldn't buy an ATV, you couldn't buy a side by side, you couldn't buy anything that provided fun. You could hardly even buy a tent. Everyone had nothing else to do, so everyone was out, buying toys.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see that even 5 years out from that stupid event, we're still seeing some growth on the electronic side of the auto industry. Well, not surprising on the auto industry, surprising on the RV industry.
Yeah, the
I just got
auto
an
entertainment
order.
side.
It's 19,000 pieces spread out over 10 months. Like, that's a lot of blocks, that's a lot of RV stuff. I mean, you can use it for different things.
That's a lot of Winnebagos and Provos, It's
Yeah, that's a lot. So, hey, they keep it coming. So, I did notice though that, because that's been our staple for like 5 years. I did notice though their life cycle of reorder went from every 12 months to 16 months, and then it's been 18 months, right? So it is expanding their time, because they kind of wait until there's like zero product left before they say, "Hey, I need these now," right? So it's like
tomorrow, please. Yes.
Yeah, it's always tomorrow, always tomorrow.
What qualities do you guys look for in an ideal customer or a customer partnership, and why do those traits matter? Sean,
somebody who.
Oh, okay, Daniel, let's start with you.
That's fine. Sean can start if he wants to.
All right, Sean, go with you.
God, it's so hard, Mike, because he has this line where he always says, "Maybe we're not a fit." So I'm I just wanted to say that out there. But for me personally, I'm all about transparency. So I show my customers literally how much I'm paying for the components, the boards, how much the labor costs me, how much all of this other stuff. And I want that same type of transparency back, right? So let me know your budget on the project. Like, I don't want to play this back and forth margin game and all this and that. To me, that's ideal, where we can, come together on a term where I'm not retiring off of this and you're not retiring off this, but we're both not broke, or one of us is broke. And for me, just that level of transparency is huge. That's what I look for the most. And for me, the constant communication and then pressuring and stuff like that, I don't really care for. Like, I have this one job, and we put the due date on it as a certain day, and then they're calling me asking me why it hasn't shipped yet, and I'm like, well, it's not due until that day. What do you want me to do? Like, this is what we quoted, right? If you wanted to, a day or two sooner, then quote that, take that price, right? Like, so just stuff like that, basic communication, and just let's make money together. Let's not just try to, mark it up over here and mark it up over there, and then beat me up over 10 cents and stuff like that. And because I want to pay my employees a good wage, I don't want to have to give them a small wage and then reduce my quality or anything like that. So communication and just open and transparent.
Daniel, what qualities do you look for in customers?
A lot of what he said. I mean, communication's important. I think it's important that the customer understands why we need the things that we need. We need the full, like, every bit of customer information helps, so we can get the bill of materials, the schematics, drawings, anything useful towards building a reliable assembly to their specs. Like, you don't want any surprises once you're done, right? You want to have as much information on the front end, and it needs to be on equal footing. Like, we are providing them a service that helps them, we're providing them a service, building the assembly that helps them sell their product. We want it to be a win-win relationship where they're happy and we're happy, and we're working together to achieve an outcome that serves both of us. So that's what I like, people that are willing to communicate early in the process. Like, if there's any chance that we can get involved while you're still in your design stage and filling out your BOM, that's even better. Like, we're in a situation right now where there's a through-hole component, where if it could be made into a surface mount component, the difference in our processing time it would drastically reduce. If it gets placed by these machines behind me, it's going to be much faster than if it's done in a post-process in a through-hole soldering, whether it's by hand or on the machine. So things like that, if you can get involved in early, it's going to be a win for everyone to work together in that way.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that face a contract manufacturer, whether they're technical, supply chain, or anything else? What do you see as, giving you some grief on a regular basis?
I have yet to have a job where I haven't had to teach a package. Daniel, have you? That to me is like, every week it's a new part. It feels like I'm getting thrown at, and I have to program something, and go through that. I would love it to be able to just, hey, everything's all pre-programmed. It's going to work fine, and it just goes, right? I was just curious if that's Daniel's, because it affects delivery time.
Sure.
Yeah, every once in a while, if it's a new circuit from a customer that we've already been doing a lot of work for, you might luck out and they're already using all the components that are already in your library, because they tend to reuse components over and over in designs, right? But it's pretty common to be getting new design, or at least one or two that you've got to program that you have to teach before you can send it into production. And just the way you receive parts in general can be challenging. And it's not even necessarily like the customer's fault. Even if we're in control of the ordering ourselves, for whatever reason, even though these discrete packages are named by their actual sizing convention, you still have a huge variance in manufacturing processes. So an 0805 capacitor isn't always going to measure the same across all manufacturers. You'll see it even, there's certain packages like 1210, Sean will know, that have a huge range in their sizing. And it's like, how can you have a huge range in your sizing when the name itself dictates the size, right? Why can't it just be the same?
Happened to me yesterday, literally yesterday. Hey, Mike, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Because I like picking the brains of people who have been there and done that before me. What is your ideal customer?
It's a great question. Let me answer the question this way. Our old way of doing business was to advertise radically, chest-pounding ads, we'll beat any price. Whenever we got an order back in those days, I considered it 2 wins. First win was we got an order. The second win was they didn't get an order. And I thought, that's great. That's win-win, right? But I kept both the wins. And we attracted customers who like to select suppliers that way. And what we ended up with, in hindsight, was a lot of toxic customers. The people who bargain for the best deal, who put price over everything, regularly are your most needy customers. They, as you all know, we sell, complex equipment, not as complex as pick and place, but, for the cleaning world, it's not your mama's dishwasher, right? It's pretty complex. Right. And it requires, a certain amount of maintenance and care and proactive stuff and good communication between the manufacturer and the user, and the other, collaborative companies like the chemical companies and all that stuff. And the types of customers that just buy on price, maintenance was never performed, communication was terrible. And anytime something happened, even outside of our normal warranty, we would be pressured into, just fix it. I'm not going to pay a dime, just fix it. And we realized that it was our marketing strategy, our advertising strategy that was attracting these people. And when we switched several years ago, or more than a decade ago, when we switched to more of a conscious marketing effort where we just, we switched all our ads, our braggadocious chest-pounding ads, that were not far off from saying we're the best and they all suck. I mean, that's pretty much what our ad said. And we switched to an education model, and we just started, providing valuable non-commercial content. We started attracting a whole different level of customer. It wasn't our intent. We didn't think that would be the result. We just figured we'd still attract the same customers, just more of them. But the customers who just lead on price went away. And we had started attracting customers that seek solutions to their problems, who want to learn. And when they end up buying products from us, they are really more like partners. The relationship is highly collaborative. And our recommendations are followed. And if something does go wrong, it's not like, you don't get the wrath of the customer. They understand. They understand things can go wrong. And sometimes they even understand they're part of what made it go wrong. And they learn. And it's just a very healthy two-way relationship. It redefined win-win for me. So that's the type of customer we seek now.
I do want to have a chance to amend, now playing off of what you said there, I feel like I want a second chance at my ideal customer. A really ideal customer to attract the right one would be somebody who has like a super simple one-sided S&T only circuit, and they want to pay a ton of money for it.
And pays on time, or maybe even pays in advance, right?
Yeah. Big volume, pays in advance, listens to every recommendation we make.
Let me know where you find them. I mean, we're close to that. They listen to our recommendations. It's very collaborative, but the rest of it doesn't always fall in line. Maybe we just have to tweak our strategies a little bit.
Well, that's why I put the right messaging out there. I just realized I need to put the right messaging out there. Give us a million circuits. That's what we do.
You both clean stuff, and as part of the cleaning stuff technology, you buy chemical. And in the chemical world, there's something called Hansen's law of solubility, which is like attracts like. And I think that particular law is applicable to more than just chemical. I think when we put out a certain message, we attract, a very specific type of person. And when we put out another message, we attract another different type of person. Like attracts like. And if we can figure out how to be like someone who just wants to pay everything, in advance and only give them simple work and never have a warranty claim, I don't know. Let me know what that message is. But I think that the more a customer collaborates with their supplier and communicates, more importantly, with their supplier and becomes part of the solution with their supplier, the better experience they will have, and certainly the better experience the supplier will have, and they'll have more time in the day to service their customers who really need service, rather than trying, taking a deal they didn't make any money on and then spending more money just trying to keep it. It's insanity. But that's the way we did it for years. That's the way a lot of companies continue to do it. When, in your experience, what are some of the most common mistakes customers make when communicating with their contract manufacturer, and how can those be avoided?
Lately, for me, it's not describing connectors as press fit on the BOM. So I get these boards in, and then I look, I'm like, well, now I got a 3D printed jig here. You're like, I didn't quote for this. BOM communication has been, one of the biggest things lately. And I wish I had the time to do a DFM for them for every single thing before we place it. But a lot of times we have to stop it when it sees the machine. And we'll see, hey, this component package is not going to land correctly on this pad. What do you want us to do? We can overnight the part, or do you have a substitute, something like that. But it still stems from BOM, so because if they send me the single up Gerber file, then I'm going to penalize it myself. I'll take care of that part of it, right? So, but everything else is it's really BOM communication of just those small little details of notes or putting it in the description, something that we'll see during the thing.
Daniel?
I guess it depends on the customer's level of experience. If it's the first time getting a circuit manufactured at volume, there may be runs into not knowing the automation, not knowing the requirements of how the board gets made in order to actually go through an automated manufacturing process. So kind of helping them communicate earlier, or trying to communicate with them earlier about what we really need to be able to build the board reasonably
How about
priced for them.
solder mask in between pads on an IC? Is that important, Daniel?
To some it
Yeah,
is, to
yeah.
others they just send it.
He sent me a job, Mike, and it felt like he sent it to me to fail. The support came in, and it's there's no solder mask between the ICs, right? And then like the designer, he
Just a
must not have
wide
known. I
open
don't know.
gang opening.
Yeah, and then like this is going to be Bridge City. Just nothing good is going to happen from this. And then I don't know because that's the Gerber file I get, so that's the Gerber, right? It's just
So let me ask you, Sean, in that environment, do you go back to the customer and say, hey, no, 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 we can't do it this way. If we do it this way, we're going to just factor in a whole bunch of rework in the quote. Or how do you handle that?
Well, from my part, I just refunded Daniel's money back. But I'm curious what Daniel did because I don't know. What did you end up doing with that job? You didn't.
Well, this ended up changing how we do things, actually, coincidentally. It's funny that you brought up this little. So it used to be that we would rely on the fabricators to make adjustments as needed, send it back for review, and we would okay anything, because you don't always get, Sean will be able to attest to this, you don't always get the cleanest design files from the customer. And so now we actually do our own thorough review before it gets tipped off, and then they still may find something else because every fabricator has their own capabilities. So they might make slight adjustments here and there and get it approved based on that. But for the most part, in the past, we were just counting on it getting caught by skilled fabricators who cared about the quality of the boards they're sending their customers. But counting on other people to do your work for you will can potentially leave you open to a blind spot. So it was actually a good experience for us and helped us kind of make our processes more robust and create better communication between ourselves and whatever board supplier we choose.
How do you see the contract manufacturing industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years, especially with trends like reshoring, automation, sustainability, miniaturization, UHDI? I mean, I can throw 1,000 different, situations out there.
Well, you have to evolve, or else I think you'll probably end up in Sean's version of the future where we all die off. I think you're going to have to, if you're not going to be able to learn how to place fine pitched ICs and BGAs with 0.3 millimeter pitch, whatever, all these complex packages that they're coming out with now. If you watch a DLE presentation, it kind of, as an assembler, it makes you want to just crawl under your sleeping bag somewhere and just hide. But, you got to wake up and face it somehow. So I think going to different conferences, upskilling your own abilities and knowledge, and staying current with how these processes are getting solved by the industry's leading experts kind of allows you to copy and mimic their processes and hopefully get the acceptable high reliability results you need.
Sean?
I think we've seen the future at Apex. To be honest with you, Fuji, right? I think they are what's going to be the future, where everything is
Those
automated.
autonomous
Yeah,
guided robots restocking your pick and
it
place
loaded the
machines on
reel,
their
took the
own.
reel out.
And
Yeah, adds the paste, dispenses the paste, changes the job out. Like there is no human other than maybe loading the reels. I don't know because it did it automatically. Someone has to put the reel in there, right? So, but other than that, Mike, I mean that thing can
not
run
really.
24/7, and I think that is probably what the distant future would be. I don't see that being adopted across the board. I think that's very specific niche type of product. someone who really trusts Skynet, right? To just go completely off the walls, right, and just let it run. And but I think that's the future. It's kind of at this point, it's the smallest scale of a 3D printed PCBA that we could have. It's full automation from printer to reflow, and continuing just going on from that. It's a little scary because there's not much human involvement after the programming part of it, but I think that's the future. I really do.
Well, we've all heard the term "lights out factory," and I don't think that is literally what we're going to see. Truly, a lights out factory, 0 employees. But I do see where automation is going to put some people into a different job and bring new people into new jobs. I interviewed several years ago. I interviewed another contract manufacturer in the Northeast, and he made a statement which I remember to this day. And I was asking him about the competitiveness between like Asian CMs and American CMs, and his point was because the Asian CM labor cost was so low, and he came right back at me and said, his name was Patrick Stimpert, and he said that if labor is your concern, you might as well get out of this business now, because if you can automate, and that's what he did, lots of automation, particularly with inspection. He set up his production line. Instead of a linear production line, left to right or right to left, he built a figure 8. And it made sense where everything that the assembly would need in the stage of manufacturing it was at had all the peripheral inventory and equipment right there as it needed it. And one side of his building was incoming, one side of the building was outgoing, because that was more efficient. And he invested millions of dollars into automation. And his point was, the Chinese, the Malaysians, the Mexicans, name your country, we all pretty much buy equipment or have the opportunity to buy equipment that all cost about the same amount of money. So the cost of the equipment is about the same. Labor costs are low, but if you can reduce labor to the point where you can't get beyond it, like someone has to load the reels, for example, then there's no reason we should not be way more competitive than we are. And I think he even suggested that we can be exactly as competitive. Maybe, I don't know enough about it, but that was his point, that you put it into automation, and then you also make money by not spending money. And he has a zero escapes policy and a very low or to zero rework policy. So he has a lot of SPI equipment, he has AOI equipment to make sure that things don't escape, and to do his best to make sure there's no need for rework. And if you think about it, that's an erosion of your profit, right? So even if it does cost a few cents more to build something, you save it on the back end because it will not come back as a product failure, as an RMA. And I think there's some logic to that. It may be a little Pollyannish, but I do think that is possible.
I also think it's everyone hears automation and just automatically goes to this place of fear where it's, oh, my job's going to get replaced. It's just the instant fear. But I think Sean will attest to this also, that every single time we've added more automation and more equipment, we actually need more people. I mean, our efficiency goes up overall, so we can get out more with less people needed per piece per se, but overall you end up increasing your throughput to the extent you still need more people for all the other processes. I mean, so far we aren't looking at automating every single process involved from start to finish. So by adding automation in certain areas and increasing your throughput, overall you're increasing the overall demand of your entire workforce. So maybe you shift people around, or you have a new need you didn't have before, and you might not even realize it until you implement a new piece of automation. But we've seen growth in our headcount as we've added equipment and automation. So it's only augmented in a positive way for us.
Yeah. If you think about the Industrial Revolution, the invention of the steam engine, electricity, telecommunication, computing, automobiles, how many people lost their jobs? Tons. I mean, if you were a blacksmith when Henry Ford built his factory, you saw the writing on the wall, and people aren't horseshoeing their horses anymore, or to that great extent. Yet, with all of the progress we've made in automation, we still have, we have 320 million people in the U.S. and about a 3 to 5% unemployment rate. There are just as many people, if not more, working. There's a labor shortage right now, right? And we've had 150 years, 200 years of rapid invention and automation. And so I understand the fear. And someone will lose their job, and someone will have an opportunity to get a new skill. I mean, we can't avoid automation just because the blacksmith wants to shoe a horse, right? I mean, you can't say no cars because, we want our job shoeing horses. If we didn't have automobiles, we wouldn't have as much automation as we have now, and marvelous things coming up. Let's talk real quick about your side hustle, the Decode Podcasts. Both of you, along with our friend Elias, started a podcast, about a year or two ago, something like that?
1 year ago, yeah.
You're on what you call Rev 2, which is season 2. And I love the fact that you can tell what industry you come from when you use Rev. What inspired you to start the show, and what's the vision behind it?
I'm curious, Daniel. I want to hear it from Daniel. What inspired us to start the show?
Well, it's frustrating to have to admit that it was Sean's idea, but I guess it works out because he was practically begging me to do it. So
I was.
And no, but in all reality, like, we started it out because we were having these conversations amongst us, and we recognized we're having like serious in-depth conversations daily about how to solve assembly challenges and the things we're seeing and facing. And it just felt like we don't see these type of conversations being presented very many places. There's probably other people who are in our network that would like to join in, and this could probably be a service to people. And like, I feel like our motives were totally pure when we started. At this point, I'd say selfishly, like, I love the fact that access it's given us to different people who are just experts at what they do. And if I was just somebody from Nebraska nobody had ever heard of, it'd probably be harder to get people like yourself on the phone when I need them. But I'm able to talk to a wide range of people because we've got this vehicle that is starting to get pretty recognized and allows us a broader reach. And I've learned a ton from the people that we've connected with through this podcast. I learned something every episode that we do. So it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I share the same experience. I interview subject matter experts like yourself, and I learn so much. And you guys ask good questions. I've been told I ask good questions. And I don't think it's because I'm a good question asker. It's just because I'm ignorant and I don't know. I ask questions. I want to know.
You have
right.
to be curious. Yeah.
Exactly. Sean, what was your motivation, since you're the inspiration of this effort? What made you reach out to Daniel and eventually Elias and say, hey, let's do this?
Nobody was doing it. And I'm the type of guy where I just send it and fill the gaps. And the main thing, though, was to be able to talk to these people that we put on pedestals of knowledge and you say subject matter experts, and I'm assuming you're talking to Daniel when you're referring to us. But
clearly, Sean,
there's like subject matter expert, right? And then there's like subject matter expert, right? And like these people that we put on these high pedestals that we just want to talk to and learn from and talk, pick their brain and stuff like that. To me, that was unbelievable to be able to do that. And I think what really sealed the deal for us was Daniel was having conversations with you on the side, and how do we start a podcast? Because you're up here, right? That's reliability matters, right? It's on there forever, and he reached out to you, and then I think did he send them a PowerPoint or some type
Yeah,
of
he literally
Yeah, we
did a
did like a
presentation
Zoom
for it.
meeting
Yeah,
with
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
yeah. And then you sent it to all of us, and then it kind of gave us the wind behind our wings to be like, all right, well, maybe we can do this, and maybe we follow Mike and see what he does, and talk to him and pick his brain, and that really gave us the okay, let's do this thing, and I remember the first one we did, because we would have these great phone calls, but we never did Zoom or anything like that, or video calls or Riverside, and I think we did it on Zoom, our first one, and it was just,
Google Meet.
we were like, okay, what do we talk about? And there was this little delay of the video part of it a little bit, but then we realized, well, once we have something to talk about, then it's more natural, it just kind of flows, and then our banter has just always been good between us three, so I think that helps out a lot, that we're all so close in age. Elias is a lot older than us, but
A lot.
He's only
A lot.
He's the old man. He's the old man.
He's like a year older, but we got to give him a hard time. But yeah, I mean, it's just been fun, and to learn from these people. It's changed my mind, and it's changed my mind for the way I'm able to explain it to young people in this generation of like coming into this industry. Do not be scared to call Mike Konrad and talk to him. Like, do not. He will talk to you and explain to you in detail until you understand it. And if you forget it, don't worry. He'll pick right back up. Like that.
I write
part
his
to
phone
me
number on park benches, so just call
Yeah.
him. Like, just talk to
I
him.
literally called
That
him.
explains a lot of calls I get.
I called him 2 days ago to ask him a question about one of the machines, and it's just it took this vision I had of untouchables and made it to just personable and people, and then the connections we made, it's priceless. But yeah, it was selfishly to talk to these people that I thought would never talk to me unless we had a platform to talk on.
Well, I think this industry, maybe other industries are this way. This is the only industry I really am intimate with. But this industry is highly collaborative. And I learned that way before I started doing a podcast. I learned that when I started going to conferences and approaching the speakers. And I had the same exact, pedestal thing going on and all that. And
approach with trepidation. And
yeah, exactly. Like walking up to a movie star and asking for an autograph.
Yeah.
You're just like almost embarrassed, but you don't want to lose the moment. I was that way with knowledge. And one thing I am constantly amazed, 40 years in this business, and I'm still amazed that when I go to a conference, I'll see 3 competitors in the same technical session, one after the other, present very valuable information with their competitors in the audience. And there is a very low, if at all, sense of guardedness and competition. As you well know at conferences, there's several parts to a conference. There's the actual speaking, then there's being in the audience, and then there's, out at the pubs and the bars at night. And you realize we're all humans, we're all just regular people. And some are gifted with a certain knowledge in one particular, random space. And pretty much everyone in our industry is more than willing to share that knowledge, not to lift themselves up, but to share. And I think that is one of the hallmarks of going to technical conferences. I talk to a lot of younger people entering the industry, and the most consistent bit of advice I would give, if asked, is go to those conferences, sit in the rooms. I know one particular young person in our industry that attends all the conferences, and I've never seen that person in the room. That person is doing other things, but not in the room. And it's just, what a waste, You learn so much just by being present. Even if you don't understand what you're hearing, it's getting in there. And then at some point, the contextual situation will catch up and it will land. But learn. And even if you've been in this business forever, like me and a few others, I still learn every day. I'm still rather ignorant, in the big picture, and what once you do think you have it all mastered, tomorrow the entire industry changes, right? And we're constantly evolving. Last question, because we're about out of time. What kind of topics and conversations are you most excited to bring to your audience, and how does the podcast connect your work in contract manufacturing?
I think for me, it's I can't talk about things or present things that I haven't yet learned or understood. So what I like about our podcast is you're probably, if you actually watch from start to finish, if you've been following along, you're going to see our actual evolution as me as a process engineer, Elias with the stencil design, Sean with, like being a celebrity or whatever. You see us evolve like continuously from episode to episode.
King Sean.
Yeah, sure, as he demands. But like these conferences, like as you've spoken about, I can't believe how much it's accelerated my learning. If I was just gonna never collaborate with anyone or go to one of these conferences and see all these different presentations from subject matter experts in different sectors of our industry who serve different people, it would take just so many more years to get to the level that I'm at now, because my growth has been accelerated by learning at all these different events and from all these experts. So, yeah, I also just want to piggyback on what you said and endorse those learning opportunities, because they've been hugely instrumental in everything I've been doing.
Excellent. Sean?
I don't mind. I've said this multiple times, and I know it comes off harsh, but I don't mind being the idiot in the room as long as someone lets me know I'm the idiot in the room, right? So
Should
what I
we tell
love
them
about the
now?
podcast is if you,
No, I'm just joking. You set me up, Sean. Come on, you set me
yeah,
up.
I love it. I love it. So here's the beauty of it though, is like the ignorance part, right? Like I only know what I know, right? So
Exactly.
when I say something about while we're talking to a guest and then someone corrects me or something, I learned something, then it's the only way I can get to learn and grow, right? So I
Yeah.
love that part of it. But my favorite, and we don't do it a lot because there's just not many left, but my favorite is anything PCB fab. Like we had this laminate guy on recently, and I was watching it with my wife, and then well, she was off to the side listening to me watch it, but it, I could just see my face when him and I were talking about different laminates and the history of what I went through and stuff like that. I could just see it in me that like I was really enjoying this. And there was a part in there too where I mentioned about the amount of dips you can have with a TG170 laminate versus a TG130. And Daniel goes, "Yeah, I know, right?" Like jokingly, because he has no clue what they were talking about, right? But like
Like everybody
for
knows
me,
that.
Duh.
yeah, for me, like I love that stuff because I don't get to talk about it anymore, right? And it's actually really critical if but that's the stuff I light up over. Is I just love PCB fab, and
But see,
it
those are
got
the
me thinking.
conversations.
When you were
Sorry,
thinking about
go
like
ahead.
the horse guy with the blacksmith, right? I was
Yeah.
like, that's PCB fab for me. I was that guy,
Yeah.
right? Like, so then I had to get rid of that and do PCBA, So it's
Well,
kind
you
of,
went from
I
shoeing
am
horses to building cars, is what you did,
exactly.
right?
Yep, that's exactly, yeah.
I
That's
will push
just
But
back
we
on
that.
one
give
thing you said, Sean, and that was, you'd like to do more talks and interviews on PCB Fab, but you probably won't be because all that's gone away. I think rethink that, because I think there's a huge need for your viewers and your listeners to learn about PCB Fab, even though we're not making boards here anymore for the most part. And I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I was hired as an expert witness in a civil litigation matter where they built tens of thousands of boards, and they all started failing within a few months. And it turned out to be a contamination issue. But I read their statement of work. We did a whole discovery request and got thousands of emails and correspondence back and forth, and I was privy to all that. And on their statement of work to the contract manufacturer, the OEM to the manufacturer, it wanted the CM to acquire the boards. And under, board type, and I quote, I'm not kidding here, down and dirty FR4, nothing special. That is in print. So, first of all, I looked up all the slash sheets on, for nothing special. That's not a slash sheet. There's no description of what nothing, down and dirty FR4, nothing special. Now, even though that is not a technical specification, what did it do? It gave the contract manufacturer the impression that this is not a class 3 device. This is probably a class 0.5 device, if there is such a thing. Down and dirty FR4, nothing special. The foundation in which they were going to build their product was nothing special. And anything that may have gone wrong in the assembly process, you almost couldn't blame them. There really wasn't anything, but if there was, when you're told, it's like going to a restaurant and say, I want a really crappy cheeseburger, nothing special. Then just go to McDonald's, But I don't know. It to me, I think a lot of assemblers don't understand board fab, don't understand assembly, or I shouldn't say assemblers, OEMs may not understand board fab, may not understand all the things you have to go through in assembly. And that's where education, such as interviewing more fab people, and designers, because designers don't know fab, and fab doesn't really know assembly, and we are all in these silos. And I think if we can spread more education on fab, spread more education on design, spread more education on assembly, and get these 3 villages to actually collaborate and share best practices, then your jobs would overnight get a little bit easier. Is that too Pollyannish of an idea, or is there any degree of truth to that?
Daniel's muted.
Well, you said you liked them better that way.
I'd say we. Well, that's perfect, because I was going to say we give Sean a really hard time, but he is our PCB fab expert, and that happens a lot where if I see a condition on a board, he's the first person I ask, like, what in the fabrication process caused this, do you think, and do a little analysis on why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. But he's actually pretty good at that, and everyone always feels sorry for him because they only see us giving him a hard time. They don't see all of the verbal abuse he gives me on the side either. So it is a two-way street. It's just on the podcast, it only serves us to keep it a one-way street.
Yeah, the shtick. Well, guys, thanks so much for being my guests today. And I'll look forward to seeing you. By the time this airs, SMTAI will be in the history books. This will air in either November or December.
And we had a blast, didn't we? Oh, my goodness. It was so much fun.
It was so great. Amazing. It was so great. Yeah. Well, wow. I think it's safe to say that because it's prophetic. It will be. It cannot not be.
Yeah, sure.
But I'll look forward to seeing you guys in Chicago in just a couple of weeks or so. And I know you're going to be broadcasting from there, or recording from there, setting up a bunch of interviews, I understand. So since this is going to air after the event, go on YouTube, look up Decode Podcast, and I'm sure you'll see the fruits of all that labor in Chicago when you hear this or watch this, and it's certainly worth watching. So, guys, I look forward to meeting up with you. We'll grab a dinner. We'll have a few drinks. Maybe we'll talk on the microphone a little bit. And I wish you continued success both in your podcast and in your endeavors for building the next generation of products that are going to come down our way.
Thank you so much, Mike.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Reliability Matters. thanks for hanging out. Whether you listened to it on your favorite podcast app or watched it on YouTube, I really appreciate you being here. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. On YouTube, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Those two very simple clicks really helps us expand our reach. New shows drop every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, so mark your calendars. And a huge thanks to PCB Chat from the Printed Circuit Engineering Association at PCBchat.com and Ascendo Reliability at reliability.fm for syndicating the show. Got a question or an idea for a future episode? I'd love to hear from you. Just shoot me an email at mike@reliabilitymatterspodcast.com. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, just head over to reliabilitymatterspodcast.com. Thanks again for being here. Until next time, keep learning, keep doing it right, and remember, reliability matters. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening to the Reliability Matters podcast. Join us on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month for new episodes of Reliability Matters.